What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of Natty News Daily. The boys are on tonight. We're going to talk about just kind of where we're at with everything. The three of us are kind of at three different phases, I guess you could say, within training. None of us are on prep. We're all in the off season, but different phases of our off season, different structures to things. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to give some insight into where we're at and maybe kind of educate you guys on different methods to things and maybe different rationale as to why we're doing the things we're doing with nutrition, training, lifestyle and stuff like that. So I'm going to let Dan kick this off because he's full blown gorilla mode right now, which is kind of like Dan's embodying the off season for sure. So Dan, give some insight as to where things are at for you. You've been off stage now for quite some time, so you're like peak beef mode right now.
I am. Yeah. So stepped off stage in my last show was in November, so this is August now. So quite a few months post show. Coming up on my peak of my mass here, actually. Peaked at I'm like 202 pounds now, which is a lot higher than I had been previously. My previous highs in off seasons, I think I got up to like an average of like 194 ish. So quite a bit heavier, with pretty decent body comp. So very pleased with that. Josh is also very pleased with it too. Um, and I'm in a deload right now. And then next week I actually kick off a little bit of a fat loss phase. So that'll be
Oh,
the
okay.
first time I've been in a deficit since November. I wasn't sure if Josh was going to want me to pull things back a little bit or push for a little bit longer, but he thinks that pulling back will be of benefit to me. So I was pretty much like, whatever you think will net me the most muscle. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at, or where I'm at, Josh and I. Yeah, honestly feel pretty decent at 202. Don't feel too bad. I think some of the new habits that I've had this off season have helped. Specifically like getting, I think the biggest one in terms of feeling good is keeping my step counts high.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, because that's always
I've
been a struggle for you, right? Just with your day job and stuff.
My day job, I'm just sedentary, so I have to force myself and actually take walks to get steps in. So like right now, I'm hitting 8,000 steps a day, which actually, believe it or not, was the most I got up to during prep. I just came out of prep and I'm like, I kind of like this 8K number is pretty good number for me anyways, I think, to be hitting. So it's helped me, I think, a lot in terms of just feeling better, digesting food better, etc. So yeah, that's kind of where things are at. Definitely the most lean mass I've ever carried, strongest
What
I've ever been, all that
what
fun stuff.
prompted the desire to do the cleanup?
I'm just kind of a little bit on the upper end, I think, of my where body fat should be
Yeah.
really like a healthy range. I have not gotten blood work done, but I need to do that. Yeah, so it's just kind of on the upper end of body fat. I've noticed things have tailed off a little bit, like progression slowed down a little bit recently. So, as I mentioned, though, I mean, I kind of left it in Josh's hands and said, hey, whatever you think will net me the most muscle. So he
Hmm.
thinks pulling it back. If he would have told me, keep pushing to 205, 210, I might have been like, okay, we got to slow roll a little bit. But
Yeah.
I would have said, okay. But he thinks pulling it back, maybe into like, I don't know the exact numbers, but probably like mid low 190s, something like that, and then before
Mhm.
trending back up. So I don't plan to compete until at the earliest 2024. So right now, just trying to accrue as much muscle tissue as I possibly can.
What are your calories, macros, and how's your appetite?
Eating like close to just shy of 4,000 calories on training days. My off day is actually quite a bit lower, like 3,400. Um, but yeah, that's about where I'm at. Appetite, actually, it's been not too bad. I mean, like, I'm not hungry going into very many meals, like, but I haven't had to like force feed.
Kind of
Not
in
that
the sweet
I
spot.
wouldn't do it, but it's like I finish a meal and I'm quite full, like, and I'm not really that anxious to eat my next meal, but it's not like I get like I've had times where I've sat, in the past off seasons where I've sat down to a meal and I'm like, I have a 0 out of 10 hunger and I have 1,000 calories to eat. And it's just like I get like quarter of the way through it and I'm just like, but this off season has been a little bit better. But I think like I said, I do credit it to, I think, some of the better habits that I've had with getting steps in, especially between meals. So
I get to that point last off season when I was like knocking on 200.
Yeah, and I think I would eventually hit that point. But fortunately, this off season I didn't quite hit that point. Maybe I will later. Maybe it's still, because I wasn't really fully recovered from prep until maybe I didn't feel like 100% till maybe I'm gonna say like June-ish. So I haven't been fully recovered that long either, though. So who knows, how if there's some sort of lagging prep effect from that. But firing on all cylinders now. So yeah, that's about where we're at. Feeling pretty good.
On the training side of things, are you like emphasizing anything right now or specializing, or are you just kind of keeping things pretty well rounded?
Keeping things pretty well rounded. I don't find that I don't find that I need as much to run. Well, I guess Josh has helped me with my lat training, so I've kind of revisited that. But in terms of overall focus, not particularly. I don't find I really reach like a state of like systemic overreaching in regards to like I don't think I can pound on much more local volume than I already, because my leg volume is already pretty damn low. So, those are the ones that tend to fill that bucket up. So like locally, like my quads and glutes and hams can only handle, even my calves and stuff can only handle so much. So, I don't tend to overfill that bucket. Or I will towards the end of a meso, but it's not like I can get, there's not much I can strip away from my leg training to put towards my chest, because it's like I don't think I can recover from any more anyways. So maybe that'll change at some point. Maybe I'll reallocate slightly at some point. But that's kind of, no particular emphasis other than, like I said, lats, but that's been more of a just reworking of how I approach things. I think I talked about Josh, and I worked through something in January, and I've just been utilizing the structure that he and I came up with, which has generated a lot of lat growth, which is nice. But
all right, James, your turn. You're on the flip side now. You're coming down from the high.
Yeah. Been coming down. When did we kick that off? I can't even remember.
About a month ago.
Well, that was when I got aggressive for sure. I definitely had started cleaning it up a little bit before then, and mine was triggered from blood work, right? So I was up 220. I spent the better part of a year around like 205, 210. And then I made one final push from 210 to like 215, 220 pretty consistently for 2-3 months. And everything.
For those listening, what was your stage low? Like, what have you come up from?
So July, what was it? 2021? Was that when I competed?
Yeah, so a year ago.
Yeah. So July 21, I was at a depleted 162 was my lowest. And then I think competed at more like 167 or something like that. So from 167
like 60
up
pounds.
To 220. Yeah. But and in previous off seasons, 205 was like the high number, right? I think my first legitimate off season after my 2017, I got up to like 190, and I was like super pumped about that. But it was a pretty ugly 190, honestly, at that point. And then the next year I went to like 200, 205, and then from there, I think I did another year of 205, and then this was the year that I really pushed it. I had like 220, but honestly, not even intentionally, because if you've listened to our other podcasts, I wasn't really like super diligent with tracking. I have my like base systems of food. I know how much protein I'm getting roughly. And then like if I wanted to be in a surplus, it was okay, instead of 2 turkey burger, or instead of 1 turkey burger, I'm going to eat 2 turkey burgers, and let's just like have an extra helping of potatoes and like make sure I'm in a surplus. And
Yeah.
and I could maintain 200, 210 like that all day. Like to get to the 220, I was actually starting to push food a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But then I started noticing sleep was starting to tank. I was snoring a little bit more, so my
That's
sleep
the
was
sign.
interrupted.
That is
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
sign for
yeah.
sure. For sure.
Yeah, sleep got
You
rough. I
snore.
was snoring, which means I was waking up Allie, which means she was waking me up, which means I wasn't sleeping as well. And some other markers. I wasn't feeling as good in general. Training was starting to, I wasn't getting as much benefit. I was starting to like feel lethargic and things like that. So then I got blood work done just because I was like, you know what, it's been about a year. Let's check, see where we're at. And the only thing that was out of range was, shoot, I'm gonna even forget what it was. Maybe triglycerides by 1. Like I think they're supposed to, and I remember the numbers. I don't remember exactly which one it was. One of them was supposed to be like under 99, and I was at like 100, right? So I'm not like blown out of the water. But for a 27-year-old male who's in good shape, my cholesterol was higher than what I wanted it. My triglycerides were higher than what I wanted. Like there were like 4 or 5 different things that were on the higher end that I just didn't like. So talked with Brett, decided let's come on down, brought it down from 220 to 205 in like just a normal fashion. Like, all right, let's be a little more active. Let's stop eating the second helping, that kind of deal. And then for 8 days, we ran a modified protein sparing modified fast. I like doing aggressive things sometimes just for the fun of it.
So for those listening, what
Make
does
it
that
hurt.
entail?
Yeah. So I copied oh my God.
Lyle.
I copied Lau McDonald's protocol like word for word. So if you look up Lau McDonald's website, it's on there. It's a template and everything. So you read through the document. It explains all the science behind it. It explains like how much is going to be body fat loss versus potential muscle loss versus just water and glycogen. So like there's a whole equation to it, but it's pretty much, there's specific numbers, but for me it came out to being like, let's hit 230 to 250 grams of protein. Let's hit 50-ish grams of fat, and then pretty much keep the carbs as minimal as you possibly can stand, right? Like 30 grams I was getting intra or peri workout, and that was it for the day of like legitimate carb sources. And that was because I left so early in the morning, it was like a Gatorade powder while I was working out, and that was like all my carbs for the day.
So how did you feel on that? Because that's honestly very similar to what like Cliff and I did with the depletion, which was like meat and veggies and some olive oil, and that's it. And I honestly didn't feel that bad. So how did you feel on that?
I felt like shit.
Okay.
But I've done it before. I've done it before though. So like I kind of knew that going in, and it was like, and he's very strict about like, if you are X% body fat, only do it for this amount of days. If you are a like largely overweight person, you might be able to get away with it for this period of time. And here's how you reverse out, right? So it wasn't me just like, oh, I'm gonna starve myself. Like there was an equation and a formula to this. But it was like up to day 3, I was like, no, I'm good, which is probably about how many days you depleted. After day 3, it was starting to get harder and harder and harder. And I was chatting with a couple guys, and I told them like by day 6, I felt like I was like 20 weeks into prep. It was it hit me hard, right? I was falling asleep on the floor, couldn't do much. Like plus like I'm working 50 60 hours a week. I'm a father. Like it wasn't just from the diet. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. But it was tough. But I dropped from that 205 206 down to like 199.8 like super quick, 8 days, right? It was pretty much like you're losing a pound. And I had actually, I think, was a little heavier than 205 when I started it, because I'd had a big refeed leading into it, knowing that I was going to go through this. So I was losing like a pound or a pound and a half every single day for 8 days. It was pretty aggressive there. Yeah. So then got out of that because that was not sustainable. However, I will say, like for that short period of time, like people always want to demonize those things because, oh, I'm going to lose strength. My training's going to stink. Like, no, like take your stems, get angry, and just like move the weight. Like so much of that is cognitive, where you're just like, oh, I don't have carbs, I'm going to be weak. And then you are weak because you've already told yourself that.
Yeah. That's so true, right? Because I train in the mornings, for those listening that have followed. Like I got to train in the morning before work. And like, I'll get up right now. I'll have 2 rice cakes and a protein shake, and I'll go train. And then you've got people saying like, how could you possibly function off 2 rice cakes? And I'm like, it's not that, like, you just do. I don't know. Like, I don't feel any different. Like, you don't need 400 carb before a workout to have a good workout. We've all trained many years after a long day of high school and went and trained 3 hours in the gym off a tuna sandwich at 1 p.m, 6 hours before training, and we were fine.
Yeah. And I mean, the amount of glycogen that we're burning in a workout, I mean, there's been studies that have come up, like, you're not burning as much as you think you are, really. Like, our workouts are not that intense for that long of a period of time to like fully deplete you. So you probably still have glycogen stores if you ate a big meal for dinner, if you wake up in the morning and just get after it.
Yeah.
So a lot of that I feel like is just like psychological stuff. Like, we've been told I need carbs, so I must have carbs, otherwise I will be weak and have a bad session.
Yeah.
If you tell yourself you're gonna have a bad session, you're gonna have a bad session. So
yeah. Shit. I mean, I hit PRs with 30 grams of carbs. Like, I hit my 405/4 RDL. I hit,
which was a win. That was a big win for you too, right? So like that's not even like a, like, he's been there before. Like that was like a, I'm chasing this down, and you did it on 30 carb.
I did it on 30 carbs at night when I've been training in the morning. So like, literally everything about that session was not standardized, and I was just like, not like angry, but like I was just feeling it. One of those where I was like moving around the gym the whole time, like, I'm gonna fuck this up. Like, I'm gonna do this. And then like every set was just like, that felt good, that felt good, that felt good, then crushed it. So it was all mindset. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And some Disturbed and 2 scoops of pre-workout. But
he had Down with the Sickness playing for sure.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, you did run it for a week. Yeah, I mean, inevitably at a certain point that harsh of a deficit probably would take its toll.
Absolutely. But for short spurts, not the end of the world. And if you look at it like, early on in prep, right, your deficit's not going to be as aggressive as mine was. So if people are 4 weeks into prep and they're like, oh, I'm losing strength, like, no, you're not. When it hurts to sit, that's probably when you're losing strength.
Yeah.
Been there. Especially if you manage your variables really well, like that front end of your prep should be clean, like really clean. For me, it's not until I notice like some of my health markers get like wonky, then it gets tricky for me to hold on to it. But until that point, until that happens, it's like, I can lose like 2 pounds a week and be completely cool.
Yeah.
But
Cool. So that's where I'm at, trying to get down. I think the goal is like down to 190 and then just maintain that body composition for a little bit, try and be a little bit of a healthier individual. Because that still is like plenty of body fat for me to function well, right? At 190, I'll probably be, I don't know, like 12% body fat or something like that. And I'll be completely fine, right? Like, I don't need to be as heavy as I have been. There probably was a benefit to it, but at this point now, I spent a year at that kind of weight. Now I'll probably spend another year at a slightly leaner weight, just in preparation to kind of like position myself.
Are you still potentially looking at next year?
No, not really. No, there's a lot of things going on in 23, so I don't imagine I will. I just don't anymore think I need to be, anywhere above 205. I think 190 to 205 for the next year. I'm going to make gains. I've already shown that I can make progress in strength and hypertrophy there. So why not?
Yeah. That kind of leads into like where I'm at right now, right? Where it's like last off season, I pushed up to that, high 190s, hung around 200. And I think it paid. Like, I think I had to do that because that was like the first time I'd ever really pushed myself high. Like, any other time between shows, it was like, get back to where I kind of feel good, and I just waited to prep again. Like, I didn't really know the concept of like pushing body weight up. Like, off season to me was just like when I wasn't prepping. Now I'm, what are we now, end of August, so I'm a little over 4 months post season, and I'm kind of where you're kind of getting to with that 190 is like, I'm at like mid 180s right now, very comfortable, very, very reasonable body composition. Training is really good. Eating habits are good. Sleep habits are good. Just overall life is in a good spot right now. I'm not suffering from a deficit. I'm not suffering from a surplus. And I think just how things are looking visually, that there's still like some good things happening, which is interesting, right? Because you're always feeling like you need to go to that extreme, whether for you that 210 or that 220, right? And it's like it comes with its cons as well, right? Like I don't think Dan is there yet, but I think if Dan went up to maybe north of 210, he would start getting like those sleep disturbances like you talked about, and like that appetite would really start to take a hit, which for me was like that 200 last off season, that it was starting to not be enjoyable. Like even moving was like weird. Like I just felt like a heavy person, like moving around the gym was like awkward.
Yeah, and I think there's a balance there, because it's like you probably want to maybe get to the brink of that, but at a certain point, like when those I'll call them symptoms, but probably not the right word, but
Yeah.
those symptoms start to prop up, like that's stress that's being added to your
Yeah.
added to your system that your body has to deal with, rather than adding muscle. So
Yeah.
it's like it's a cost benefit. At a certain point, it's like that the added stress of that added weight is offsetting
Yeah. Yeah.
your ability to add muscle. So
The only really, and again, like I said, I think it was necessary because I was like, for me, like godly strong at those high 190s, like squatting like 5 plates for reps. Like I pulled 600, which I'd never done before. Like benching over 3 plates like regularly. So that I think translated into the physique changes, and it, like Dan said, come with some of those symptoms. But now I'm at that point, and I think I want to kind of touch base with Cliff about, I'm gonna hold here for the remainder of the year, and maybe even tighten up a little bit for our honeymoon when we go away in December. But then next year, kind of square up with Cliff about, okay, what do you think I need to do? Like, do I need to get that high? Do I need to maybe just come up a little bit to like 190, for example, and just see what he thinks the best plan of action is? Because like Dan said, that's putting stress on your body, which if you're not getting as much benefit as you are negative, then maybe it's not worth it.
well, it's you reach kind of a certain point, but I mean, as you showed, you probably I'm guessing Cliff's gonna push you to kind of get to 200. I could be wrong, but
Yeah.
it seemed like that was very productive for you in the past off seasons. But right now, it sounds like the timing doesn't make sense for doing that. But
Yeah.
when
I think
next year
too.
rolls around,
I think too, I'll be able to do it at a better body comp this go around too. Like I would probably take like most of 23 to go from like the mid 180s to 200. Like I would do it like probably very, very gradually and just let the training and the food do the rest of it. But like you're in a surplus, but like I was pushing pretty aggressively to get up there because I'd never been there before. And part of me would just want to hit it before I started prep again. But I think now that I saw what that felt like and how quickly I got there, it probably was, some benefit to do it a bit slower, a more controlled approach to it as well, right? Like I agree with you. I think he would probably lean towards, okay, let's, if you want to do this, let's do it right and push up a bit, but do it in a bit more of like a intelligent fashion, maybe.
so do you think you'll get back to doing more tracking, or
Um,
what's your openness to that? Or
yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. Like I have habits, right? Like,
yeah,
James mentioned that, right? Like I know, like right now I'm eating the way I'm eating because of where I'm at with like body comp and training. Like everything's good right now, so I'm just doing what I'm doing. When it comes to pushing up, I know exactly what I'll do is I'll have rice back in one meal and I'll have potatoes back in another meal and watch what my body does and then go from there. Like right now, I'm eating like my two meals that I have at work. So I have my post training meal, which is oats and stuff like that. That's like my
do you weigh
highest.
that out, or do you just
Yeah. That's
pour
all
in?
weighed,
Okay, so
right?
you do. Okay,
Yeah, that's what I mean by habits, right? So
yeah.
I'll run the viewers through it. Morning is 2 rice cakes with a protein shake and vitamins and shit. Some days, like legs, I'll do intra Gatorade powder, like James mentioned earlier. Post workout is weighed out. It's oats, whey, dark chocolate, banana. That's all weighed every day. It's the same. And then 2 servings of a protein and fruit during the day at work. So like today we had pork chops last night. So I had 5 ounces of pork chop, and then I had 5 ounces of chicken. Some days it's steak. Some day it's just depends on what we've cooked pretty much. And then fruit is whatever I want. Like it's an apple, it's a peach, or it's like kiwis or something. And then dinners is whatever. So like when I go to push, I'll throw in potatoes with one of those meals with the protein, and I'll throw rice in with one of those meals with the protein, which will be an extra, 500 or 600 calories from carbs, and then just see what happens, right? And that's where those habits come into play, right? So am I tracking like actively? No, but subconsciously, like it's all very much aware of what's happening, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you can do that in reverse too, right? If those are in, that's how I started my diet. It was when I was pushing, it was 2 bagels with 2 servings of jelly after I worked out in the morning. And it was like rice with my chicken at lunch. And then I knew like what my carbs were for dinner. And then what I do, 1 bagel comes
Yeah.
out, the rice comes out. So now it's just chicken and veggie for lunch. Like
Yeah.
I drop my carbs, and the fats are relatively consistent, except for like this week I'm eating steak because it was cheap and on sale. And I said, screw it, I'm gonna eat steak. So my fat content's a little bit higher this week, which means maybe I won't lose as much this week on the scale, but as long as the average is there, like I'm still in a deficit. I know I'm still losing, right? Like I think my high end target is like 2,300 calories. I'm going to lose weight at 2,300 calories, and my low end I'm hitting like 2 to 2,100, right?
Yep.
So the deficit is not exactly the same, but you're still moving in the right direction.
Yeah, it's and again, that's a testament to like where we are in this whole bodybuilding game, right? Like we've been doing this a long time. So, for some listening, they're like, how do you know that? Like, how do you like you just do, like it's something, Berto made a good post about that he's prepped for like 44 months in his training career. Like he knows what this feels like, what this timeline should be, what this phase should be. And, we're not to that extent, but that rings true to what we're talking about. Whereas you just kind of know over time. I don't know how else to explain it. It's very, very, very intuitive.
Well, I mean, we keep coming back to it. There are foundational meals and staples within our life that just regiment us, right? Like we're altering variables, but you're not just overhauling your meal. You're not going from your oats to screw it, let's go get a, breakfast sandwich at the gas station or whatever, and maybe try and back that with a protein bar. Like they're still there. You're just adding in this variable, taking that variable away. So there's still a foundation which we have calculated in the past to know that, plus or minus 20 grams here or there, this is what I should end up with.
Yep.
Yeah. I should clarify that I do track like a maniac.
You track everything. Yeah.
Anybody that follows you is well aware of your track.
To the gram, his half pickle and 3 grapes.
One half pickle, 3 green grapes.
The charcuterie board. I think you guys and Jeff Alberts coined that term.
Jesus.
Yeah, what a case.
Yeah.
Peppermint patty's been good. I've been liking those.
Your last meal is the best. The rest of
my post training meal is like 200 grams of carbs. So it's like
yeah. I know I'm in a good spot because I can still eat oats. When I can't eat oats in the off season, I know I'm peak.
I haven't touched them this entire off season. I can't touch them. I haven't touched tuna.
Oats is the barometer of where I'm at in off season or prep. If I love oats, I'm dieting. If I'm okay with oats, I'm in a good spot. If I hate oats, we're off season now.
Yeah, man. Bad memories.
All right, boys, let's close her out. If you guys like this episode, let us know. If you guys want us to maybe dive into other subject matter the 3 of us can talk about, obviously we'd be more than happy to do that. Whether you want us to dive into training a little bit more, or some other kind of lifestyle factors that we implement to play this whole bodybuilding game. Like I said, we'd be happy to do it. So thanks again for watching. Subscribe for future episodes. Don't forget, we are on Instagram at Natty_News_Daily. Hanging north of 12K now, which is pretty wild every time you think about it. Where we started from the bottom, now we're here. Yeah, I'm gonna
put that on the outro.
Yeah. All right, thanks guys, and we'll see you guys in the next one.